Fam, thank you for choosing to watch this episode of Mind the Mic podcast. Before we get into it, though, I need you to hit subscribe. And not just me, the whole Mind the Mic podcast family needs you to. Maddie, Uncle Pete, Stu, Leka, and of course myself, Shubs, and anybody else that's on board by the time you watch this video, we need you to hit subscribe. If it's your first time here, I understand if you're a bit reserved and you're like, I don't know, watch the video and after subscribe if you want to. But if you're here and you're watching all the time, subscribe. It's not that hard. All you got to do is, if you're watching on your TV, you're like, I can't subscribe, I don't have an account. You have a phone, don't you? I know you have a phone in your hand right now. Grab the phone, create a YouTube account. It takes a couple minutes, and then you can subscribe. And when you do that too, hit the notification bell so you can get notified every time we put up a new episode. I asked this of you because we put in so much time. We've done hundreds of episodes. We plan on doing thousands more with as many amazing people as we can. But we need you to subscribe, fam. Big love to everybody that's been watching. Big love to everybody that's been supporting and anybody that's just arrived. I hope you enjoy the journey, enjoy the episode, and subscribe. Welcome back to another Mind the Mic podcast. I'm your host, Shubs, here with a special guest that I'm very excited about. It's been a minute since I caught up with the brother Eppy 187. I think he's got a flashier name than that, but we'll just go with that for now. Shout out to my man Eps. What are you up to, my brother? How's things?
It's a pleasure to be here, brother. Thank you for the invite. Man, things have been hectic. It's been a bit crazy, busy time since our last interactions, probably roughly, 6 months or so ago?
Oh, yeah, well, even longer. I think
Maybe
probably a
even
year,
longer,
bro.
maybe
Yeah,
close
probably a
to a
year.
year, eh?
Yeah, I'd
Yes,
say,
so
brother.
definitely a lot's changed. Been super busy in the gym space. I opened up my own gym obviously around a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Things there are just going crazy. That's taken up most of my time. I also become a father again. My son was born January the 6th this year.
Wow.
And so just got that introduction back to fatherhood again as well. So that's been keeping me super busy as well.
Congrats, my brother. Congrats being a father again. Was that like
you,
16, 17 years later, is it? Oh.
Yeah, that's right. My firstborn, she's 16. She'll be turning 17 this year. And then just being reintroduced to the whole game again. Oh, it's crazy because I'm obviously a lot older now. I was a teenager when I had my daughter, and so I just find I'm a lot more present during this time, and I notice a lot more. It's a crazy time.
Yeah, solid, brother. Just for anybody that's listening, brother, that doesn't know, who the great Eppy is, can you give us a little background on yourself, my brother? A little synopsis,
Yes,
if you will.
definitely, bro. Sure thing. Eppy's a nickname of mine I've had since I was probably around 12 or 13. But I only introduced that name to sort of the wider community when I started a TikTok page roughly around nearly 2 years ago now.
Yep.
And I utilized that platform to express myself, as a lot of people do, And I was using that platform to engage in the community there. I was going live often. I was creating content around my passions and all those sorts of stuff. I was, at that time, I was into skipping. I was into my cardio, my workouts, engaging with the audiences and such like that. And so, for those who don't know me, that's sort of where I built the name around my nickname there, Eppy. And I began to introduce that name to the wider audience, starting on TikTok, And then, but for those who don't know me, yeah, my name is Eruera Piwari. I'm a father. I'm a business owner. I'm a professional MMA fighter / been out of the ring for a little bit. I've just sort of re-engaged in that part of my life over the last year. I opened up my own gym about a year and a half ago. But so getting back into the competitive side of that world has been crazy. It's been awesome. Fighting again, competing again. I'm not in my 20s anymore, so it's a little tougher on the body. It's very strenuous. Training and all of that sort of stuff, getting to fight camps. But outside of my MMA, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu career, I also run my own business and take care of the family, all that sort of stuff too. And then I also love creating content on TikTok, and and other platforms like Instagram. And actually, at the moment, those are the only two platforms I'm utilizing.
Yeah, solid, my brother.
Yeah.
Thank you for that little quick one. Where was Eppy born though? Where was brother Eppy
Yes.
born?
I was born and raised in Porirua,
Oh,
Wellington area. Man, some rough times coming up in that hood, that area, and so
yeah.
we're quite fortunate that our mother saw fit to pull us out of that space, and we moved to Tauranga Moana in around when I was about 8,
Oh,
and
true.
so managed to get us away from a lot of the troubles and all that sort of stuff down there, and we began our lives pretty much from Tauranga.
So did you get it's crazy because bro, there's been so many people who have made it out of Purirua that have been on here, like so many, like not just rugby
Yes,
players, like obviously a lot of rugby players, league players, but even just in different spaces all over. They're all born in Purirua, man. It's all great. It's crazy. All
yeah,
grew up there for at least their primary school years or something like that. Oh, it's crazy, man.
yeah.
What memories do you have of Purirua, and how many siblings did you have growing up?
So growing up, I got 9 siblings. I got 8 sisters, one brother. I
Wow.
grew up a pretty big family. So there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of girls in my family. It's just me and my younger brother.
Were
But
you in the
no,
line, brother?
I am fifth, fifth in line, eldest boy. My brother was the last born, so it was just me for a fair while with the 8 girls, and then my brother
True.
was the last to come along. Yeah, but yeah, bro. Yeah, no, my sort of backstory and my upbringing around Porirua definitely wasn't a pretty one. It was a
Mm,
tough life. Sort of, we grew up in poverty and grew up around domestic violence, alcohol, drug abuse, all those sorts of things, and that was quite common though back then, And
yeah.
so often as you grow up, you think you learn to minimize the things that you see. You learn to think this is everyone else is going through this, so as a kid, I think it's a coping mechanism, but you kind of minimize a lot of the stuff. And so often it's not hard to revisit for me today as a grown up, as a man, but it used
Mm,
to be. It used to be in my early teen years, 20s. I struggled with that stuff a lot, which took a lot of work to be able to overcome that stuff. But yeah, just to kind of brush on some of it, obviously the domestic violence was very apparent. I grew up with an abusive alcoholic father. It was very
mm,
critical and harsh on myself, particularly being the only male.
yeah.
None of the females in my family often copped the flack from that,
Yeah.
and so I was often my old man's kind of like boxing bag in that sort of sense. Or if it wasn't me, it would be my mother and that sort of stuff. So I think the positives that came out of that kind of upbringing was I'm super gentle today. I'm very I hold myself to a high standard. I, uh, I often sometimes expect a little too much of myself, but with that being said, it's what helped me push myself to becoming a professional athlete and a competitive fighter and an instructor and then a good father and all those sorts of things too. So there's always the flip side to all of that stuff, which is the good
Mm.
thing that's turned out from it.
I think also when you go through a lot of that stuff, and I grew up in a lot of similar, a lot of similar stuff happened as a child,
Mm,
violence, sexual abuse, all that kind of stuff. But I think you can choose to either sometimes continue that pathway, or like yourself and even myself in a lot of ways, tried to be the antithesis of that, try to be the opposite,
yes.
trying to flip the script. Because I don't know, a lot of the times, like if your father was that way, just imagine what he received, and that doesn't
Yeah.
excuse his behavior or anyone's
Mm,
behavior, but it comes from somewhere. And I think
yes.
I think it takes a strong person, brother, to not only endure that, but to decide that, hey, I don't want to be that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more, brother. It requires so much healing and so much self work that although these things were unfortunate and they happen to you, it gets to a point in your life where you become the sole person who was responsible for what to do with it. And
Mm.
and then so the moment you stop sort of I guess playing victim to it all
Yep.
and sort of playing the blame game, you kind of got to take that role on. Okay, it sucked, yeah, it was shit.
Mm.
um, but what am I going to do with it? And then so just like I said, it takes an exceptionally strong person to turn that stuff around, because the mahi that's involved with, i.e. the healing, the
Mm.
growth, or the habits that you inherit that you must unlearn or learn to
Oh,
replace with good stuff. So
kia ora.
that's mahi, and
Yeah, brother.
yeah, even at 34 years old, I still am working on a lot of those things too, like learning how to unlearn some of those bad habits, those traits,
Mm.
those things that were just ingrained in you as a youngin. Are definitely part of the journey, but that's why it requires someone who's exceptionally strong, determined, and has that willpower, to just sort of flip the script on the whole thing, and yeah, break the chains.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right there, brother, because we hear these things like we're products of our environment. And indeed, in a lot of ways, we are. But
Mm,
eventually, we have to become a product of our decisions, and make those decisions and let those decisions be final. And I'm with you, brother. Like I'm fully still. I got so much stuff I still gotta get rid of. Cause then, like then I see, I'm like, oh, that's an ugly one, and I'm like, oh, where's that one come from? I actually spoke on this because I do like a little. Started doing these little POVs or just me speaking, really just rambling from my point of view. I've been doing them sort of
mm,
weekly recently, and I was just speaking on being a father, and then yelling at my kids, brother. You know what I mean? And I was speaking to a
right.
brother of mine, and he was telling me, he's like, "Oh, I'm trying to not yell at my kids, like because I'm always just quick to yell at them." But then I was like, I sort of said to him, "Bro, you're 30, whatever he is. You didn't get like that in one day, brother. It's gonna take a little minute. So go be easy on yourself. But the key
Yes,
is that you want to change. You know what I mean? Yeah, and
yes,
I think and there's something that to me too, brother. That I look back and I'm like, wow, bro, like there's some things and I've like just yelled at them and I'm like, not for nothing, like for good reason, but like I
mm,
could have approached that
yeah,
differently. And it's that unlearning thing that I sort of feel
yes,
guilty about it, to be honest, brother. Like, obviously we can't change what's gone there. What's gone is gone. But like, I'm like, I never want my kids to be scared of me. You know what I mean? I want them to respect
mm,
me and love me. I want to be the favorite koro one day when they have kids, but I don't want to.
yes,
Yeah, I don't want them to like, oh, dad's yeah, let me hide away. Like, I don't want any of that buzzing. That's just from the heart. So that's something that I've been like working that I'm doing at the moment too. Just one of many. Yeah, but I'm with
yes.
you, brother. Life is
Yeah,
a journey, eh?
it's definitely a journey and a process, eh, brother? And it's
Yeah.
definitely not sort of achieved overnight. This type of stuff, and often it's unlearning what you spoke on, unlearning those bad habits, which is I still struggle with some of that stuff today. Yeah,
Mm.
and I love how you're able to just openly voice that. That's super strong right there. Right? A lot of people need to be a lot more that upfront about those sorts of things. I'm not
Yeah.
quite there yet, but I can at least acknowledge the things I'm working on.
Yep.
And I've learned that for myself anyway, in order to unlearn or undo a lot of my bad habits that I inherited growing up. I, I needed to stop focusing so much on them and just
Mm.
try and focus more on the positive ones that I'm trying to replace it with.
Oh, that's a
I,
good one, cuz.
uh,
Oh,
and
yep.
so, yeah, focus on instead of destroying the old, focus on building the new. That sort of thing. You know what I mean,
Ooh,
brother?
fuck.
And
That was
so,
on. Yeah. That
for
was a
me,
clippable
it's
moment
just
there. Yeah.
it's constantly just I get it. I slip up too. I slip up. I
Mm.
go back and like, damn, that's not even me talking. That's an
Mm.
old version of me. And then go
Yeah.
further behind that. That's what was passed down to me. Then go further than
Mm.
that. That's what was passed down to my father. And you spoke on that too. That was amazing, by the way, brother. The whole when you get to know your parents more and you understand their history and
Mm.
you understand that they must have had it worse because I got the better version than my father got, if that makes
Mm.
any sense. When he tells me his childhood stories, I'm just like, I'm jaw dropped. I'm like, damn, how did you
Yeah.
survive that? And
Extra way.
it's like, oh, yep, I got it rough, but man, you got it hard. You got it real hard.
Mm.
And I think we grew up in poverty because we struggled to feed all nine mouths,
Yo, that's another thing too, eh? No TV, cuz. Holy Rick.
Yeah, no TV. What was that? And we're going around to like my cousins to watch Sky and stuff,
Yeah,
thinking, man, you guys got more channels than three. Wow, that's
but they
amazing.
definitely didn't have 9 kids, eh? Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, exactly, bro. and then, so you learn to understand your parents from a deeper perspective, which helps a lot with the healing process and all of that stuff. Eh?
Where do your parents come from, brother? What is the background?
Originally, my father, his background is uh, Wellington area, Porirua, born and bred
Yeah, yeah.
there. Then my
Uh,
mother as well,
Like, is he
she's from,
Maori or like what's the heritage?
yes, Maori,
Oh,
and
yeah.
my mother's Cook Island.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm Cook Island Maori. My mother she's got roots in King Country as well as the Cook Islands.
Oh, okay. So Maniapoto, is it? Or no?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I got a little bit of that
And
too.
so,
Hey, cousins, eh?
hey, we could be
Yeah,
probably,
got a little
hey.
bit.
I
Yeah, Fanangas, papa.
admittedly, we never grew up very strongly connected with all that stuff.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
being like my father was a bit of the black sheep of his family, so was my mother for choosing to be and stay with him.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the stuff that happened in our family was kind of like separated from the rest. I remember like looking up to my cousins, thinking, "Man, you guys got the nicest food. You guys got all this stuff. You guys, you used to think you guys are rich as all of that stuff." And you know, go home and we'd have our reality and that sort of thing. So
Mm.
my point being is that I never often knew a lot of that stuff growing up. We weren't very religious. We weren't strongly
Okay.
connected to our tikanga and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we
Are
just
you
kind of
learning some of that now
yeah.
as you're growing older? Like, do you wish to learn more about your Cook Island and Maori side more? Or like,
Yes, and um, as I continue on in my healing journey and all that stuff,
mm,
there's more wanting to connect with all that sort of stuff,
mm,
especially around the reo and all of that. So it'd be great to be able to raise my son and our family around that and sort of introduce that to us at least. So yes, there's definitely a strong need and I want to reconnect with all of that part of us.
beautiful, brother. 8 years old, you moved to Tauranga.
Hmm.
What happens there? Like, you say that's when you sort of began more of a journey. Does life change? Do things become a bit better? Like, what happens? So, do you get into
I
martial arts
was
then? Keep going, brother. I can hear you.
yeah, yes, sure thing, brother. What was it like? At 8 years old, it was an Orthodox way we moved up. I remember my mother moved up with the girls first, um, and then my mother moved up. Oh, my father moved up with myself and my other older sisters at a later date, and so we all reconnected later on down the line. But long story short, my mother was living in a women's refuge here in Tauranga when I first moved
Oh,
up.
so
I
good.
remember being young and they wouldn't allow me to stay with them being a male. So it was a females only place. So I had to live with my uncle. And at the time, it was hard. It was hard being away from my family there. So I moved in with
Mm,
my uncle here in Tauranga and he lived on a pig farm. So he sort of showed me all the ropes around hard mahi, early wake
mm,
ups, helped me run the pig farm. I learned how to slaughter pigs and run the whole show there and just learned a whole bunch of good skills and things that I actually carry with me today.
yeah.
That's where my journey in Tauranga began around there. Then, yeah, fast forward a few years, troubled kid, struggled with everything I had witnessed and experienced, and admittedly still experienced a lot of that growing up in Tauranga to a certain point. So it's like a lot of trouble. I think I must have been about 13 or 14 the first time I got arrested. Um, Found myself in trouble with the law often, struggled with alcohol, struggled with anger management, my mental health issues. I didn't even know what that was at the time.
Mm,
And so went through all of these phases as a teenager, um, and a lone teenager at that, trying to figure these things out because you got to remember at this point I didn't have a brother. Um, Even when he did come along, I was 11 years old. And
true.
he's a newborn, so he
Yeah.
didn't. He wasn't able to talk back to me till I was about 22. 21, 20. So my brother was not in the picture for a little bit. Um, and so the everything that happened back in Porirua came with us. My father was
Mm,
still abusive. He was an alcoholic still. My parents still had a lot of domestic um, violence and issues throughout the household. when we all finally managed to move back in together.
Yep.
There was drug abuse, all of that sort of stuff throughout the household as well. And it must have been around, because I became a father, or I found out I was going to be a father when I was 16. And then that's a little bit of a light switch went on. That's a little bit where I
Oh
was
yeah.
saying, like, this is getting a little serious now. Like, I've got a young
Okay.
one. But I was still a very self-centered, all in my own world individual, still stuck on like a lot of the past, playing victim a lot, blame game.
Mm.
Um, I didn't deal with any healing, didn't deal with any past trauma, pain, nothing, didn't know how to, didn't have no guidance. Got to remember too, I'm raised with just surrounded by females, all sisters and
Yeah,
my
yeah.
mother. And then my father, who should have been the dominant male role model in my life, was not very much of one. Uh, and so it's kind of like a bad recipe, bro. It was kind of like, looking back, I think, damn, I just needed a decent male in my life to be able to show me the ropes and how to be. And so
Mm.
it's kind of
Like you
like,
had your uncle there for a little bit, but like
yes,
it,
and
it
he was
wasn't.
good.
Yeah.
He was good. He gave me good, strong work ethic. Taught me how to
Mm.
take care of my things. Like almost like an army brat. Like it was like an army
Yep.
camp. I was there for what, maybe a year and a half when we first moved up. So when I was finally able to move in with my mum and dad again, with all my siblings, and then hence the the Ferris wheel continues. It just repeat it all, rinse and repeat,
Cycle.
and then
Mm.
back to the same habits and all that sort of stuff. And then so once I got out on my own, I think must have been around 17 or 18. That's kind of, I still hadn't found martial arts at that point.
Oh,
I
sure.
knew I
Oh,
was
okay.
no. I got into MMA very late in my life. I started MMA when I was 21. But up until
Okay.
then, I struggled with many things. I struggled with my own mental health. I struggled with um, alcohol abuse, drug abuse. I struggled with relationships. I struggled with like anger management. I had sort of a bad concoction that was sort of when I spoke earlier about inheriting all these things. I look back and I think, damn, man, there was no way that kid was going to make it. I don't know what it was, but it must have been a switch. But I think after when I was 20 years old, I tried to take my own life, and I think
Mm.
that was a big turning point for me. Um, and without getting into too much details, by way of carbon monoxide poisoning, people are unaware of that. It's around using the car's exhaust to essentially suffocate yourself with poisonous gases. And then I was when I woke up in the hospital, and it was my brother who saved my life, my brother-in-law, and be specific. Um, and that was kind of a turning point. 20 years old at the time. I was currently serving a 4-month home detention sentence at that time as well
Oh, true.
for, for fighting for an assault
Yep.
charge. Up until that point, I'm 20 years old. I've got a few pages full of, by now, all through my teen years, I've got a few pages full of assault charges, fighting in public places, common assaults, assault with intent to injure, and just sort of a bit of a bad rap sheet by that point. 20 years old, trying to take my life. I wake up in the hospital and I'm hit with the crisis team. And sort of that's when I first really begin the healing journey. That's where the heavy counseling happens, the psychiatrist work, all of that sort of self healing work starts to begin for me from then on. And it wasn't until I was
Mm.
21 when I moved to Hamilton. I enrolled into university to do my bachelor's degree in engineering, and I also had just started training jiu-jitsu. And so that's where things sort of started taking a slow turn for me.
Mm. What was um what do you think that obviously there's a whole build up that when you go to do that stuff I think I've spoken to you about a little bit on lives on TikTok before, like I've been in those situations when you want to end it all. Can you think of
Mm.
like was there a thing that hit you when you were like, nah, this is like I've had enough, or was it just everything compounded? Like, obviously everything compounded creates it, but what was
Mm.
the, you know what? Do you know what that light switch moment of like, bro, I'm over this. Like, do you or nah?
Yes.
You have one?
Yes, definitely. I think I remember the snapping moment, the tipping point for me
Yeah, that
was
tipping.
at the time I was split up with my daughter's mother. My daughter would have been going on 3 years old or so. Um, and I was served with some papers earlier that day that her mother wanted to go for, I believe, custody and wanted to move to Australia. And that for me, I remember that night, I remember turning to the booze,
Mm,
not being able to sort of regulate my emotions and process what I was feeling and thinking, and sort of just drown my sorrows in the booze. And then with obviously the lack of control, sort of just impulsively acted on everything. And so that was definitely the tipping point, the thought of losing my daughter, because that's another story in its own. That's a part of me
yeah.
as I've been in and out the court systems fighting for those types of battles as well, uh, for that custody thing of my daughter, which all turned out well. I've had my daughter my care. I've been sole custodian of my daughter for the last 9 years, and so we've been
Wow.
doing our thing. And so the mother's just not in the picture anymore. She's
Okay,
just
that's sad,
she's just let.
but awesome that
Yes,
she's got
very sad.
you and your father name, my brother.
Yes,
Um,
I remember that was
and
the tipping point. The thought of losing her was the thing that got me over that edge. But yeah, no, I fought hard for her for many years. When I won that battle, was a huge relief.
yeah, definitely. What like do you? Obviously, that's what the tipping point was. Speaking on
Mm,
the battle, the battles, like because I've seen a lot of people lately. I don't know why, but it's come up on my algorithm a lot, and I've spoken to a couple of people on here that have been through the same thing. What would you say to them, brother? Like that, they have every intention to be a good father, and like for whatever reason, the system plus maybe the mother and that aren't really letting them be a part of the child's life. But what would
mm.
you say to them?
Yes, I'm seeing a bit of that too. It must be popping up in my algorithm as well, bro.
Yeah.
It's definitely flooding around, and maybe it's becoming more common. I would say to anyone in that situation, which I do have a couple of my bros currently in that situation, and I tell them the same thing, and that's to persevere. It's a long, grueling process. You want things to happen now, but and you could be in and out of that court system. It took me, I think, 17 months of in and out of hearings to just stop the move to Australia and keep her in the country. And then it took me like another 2 years in and out to till I actually got custody. And so it's a long, grueling process, and it can often be costly as well, but
Mm,
it's worth it. And I think that it's for a lot of men, they get to the point where it's like, what's the point? They feel like defeated almost, like I
mm,
just can't do this anymore. And it's like in 10, 20 years from now, whether you win the case or lose the case isn't the important thing. Your child's gonna go, did my parent fight for me? Did my father fight for me? Yeah, they lost, but did they give up or did they keep fighting for me? Because that's the thing that's gonna matter in the long run. And so I often would tell myself that too, in the midst of it all, where I felt like this is getting rolling like another hearing,
mm,
I've got to find another lawyer and do um, all the mediation meetings and all of that stuff. You got to deal with the lawyer that's representing your child as well. It's a process, and it can be very challenging for men, especially. But also another piece of advice I'd give is to stand on your own merits, to hold yourself high in what you have to offer, and that's a lot as a father. Um, it's we offer that balance in a child's upbringing, as well as that security around. That's my dad. Every
mm.
kid loves to be able to show off their dad. My dad could beat up your dad that used to be to go back in
Yeah.
the day, right? And so it's like, what if it's like, yeah, my dad is just my superhero, and so
Mm,
it's very tough and challenging. I get that, and I see it a lot on the algorithm these days. But my main piece of advice would be to never give up. because one day your kid's going to grow up and see that you never gave up. And that's going to
Mm,
hold a lot of weight, despite what maybe they're hearing through their mother's mouth or what
mm,
they're hearing from other sources. The truth will always come through.
mm.
So at the end of the day, that's what got me through that period, and it paid
Yeah.
off luckily.
Yeah, you said something interesting just before. My dad is my superhero, and that's
Mm,
definitely, I think, something that many fathers that really care about their children and would love to, there for their children to say. I often quote a guy. I don't even know who I heard say it, but he took the but and I don't even say the words verbatim, but pretty much the gist of what the guy said that I heard, and it just resonates with me all the time. Is the true mark of success for a man isn't how much money he can make or how much things he can get or attain. It's growing old and his kids want to hang out with him. You know what I mean? And I think
mm,
I don't know. Just hearing you say that, how did that feel for you as a child? Like, because your dad beat the fuck out of you. Like, was your dad your
mm.
superhero as a child?
Yeah,
Or
and the thing is, here's the thing. Like I saw a quote the other day, bro, that struck such a strong chord, and
mm,
it sort of reflects this. Like I never lost that side of my father, despite the many years of torture and abuse.
yeah,
I would always still look up to him, and you're still the man to me. And
wow,
so, in the quote said something like, when you, um, as a father, when you beat down on your kid, they don't lose love for you; they lose love for themselves. And I grew up
oh,
believing that I was like not
fuck, that's
worthy.
deep, brother.
Yeah, bro, and it struck such a deep chord with me, and I couldn't have related to it more. I grew up believing that I was worthless, that I was ugly, that I was dumb, stupid, just rubbish. And I think that reflected a lot in my teen to twenties, my teens and twenties, where I acted out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, fuck,
Yeah,
that was a deep one, brother. Um, just what you said there, I just think about fuck. Not that I haven't even beaten my kids, but I just think that, but I couldn't imagine, like doing that to
yeah,
them. You know what I mean?
yes,
I just couldn't imagine
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Because I guess that's the long lasting scar that you leave on them, is they will always still look up to you. You're my dad, I love you. You're the man to me. You're my hero. Even though you're doing these things I don't like or I disagree with, I still am gonna love you. But you're teaching me not to love myself. And so
Mm,
that's the toughest part about the whole thing. It made so much sense to me because I carried that a long time, but I had to relearn as part of the healing journey. It's
mm,
learning how to love myself again, which I'm seeing a lot of that in my algorithm too, which is a lot of people on their healing journeys, a lot of people in different phases of that healing journey, and that's positive. That's good to see.
yeah, definitely, brother. Yeah, for like mine with my father anyway, it was a bit different for me because he left to Australia when I was like 4, brother. So a lot of time
Mm,
he was a phone dad. Like I got cracks, but it was from uncles, aunties, corals, nans. And my mum was she was pretty ruthless. Cause so actually, when you said
yep.
that about like you're not actually making them hate you or whatever, or they actually, they begin to hate themselves more.
Mm,
I definitely felt that because, like, to be honest, a lot of that drove me in life. It was like, I'll prove you
yes,
wrong,
yes.
bitch. That's what I
That's right.
thought, brother. Yeah, I probably still do today, to be honest.
Yes,
But I love her. Don't get me wrong. You know
yes,
what I mean?
yes.
Always. But yeah, definitely. Yeah. Fuck,
It's,
that's
it's,
hectic, brother.
I think that's where I give like myself permission to carry the old chip on the shoulder. I think it's okay to be like, yeah, you're gonna show them all. And
Yeah, fuck, I'll show you, you bugger.
I'll show you all. That's right.
Definitely. But even something that resonated with me isn't what you said, brother, about just not giving up. And then even if you obviously the hope is that you win, but the intention
Mm,
is to do all you can for your children. All
yes.
you can to show them that you love them and adore them and that you want, that they mean everything in your life. It is hearing that because I always felt like back my parents were teenagers, cousins, and they hear me say like, but my old, I always felt like all these other people would tell me my old man loved me, but I would be like,
Mm,
But fuck it, where's the proof? You know what I mean? Where you at on me? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like
where's
all
your
of his girlfriends and shit, G, and I'm like, fuck, he's just telling you that to get in your pants, probably. Yo, is that? You know, they'll be like, oh, your dad loves you so much. So like, okay, yeah, you know,
yeah,
but yeah, but nah, solid, and cool that you didn't, yeah, that you still held that, you know. How put your dad up there, brother? How's the relationship now with the old man? Is he
yeah.
still
Oh,
around? Or?
bro, no, it's great. My man still lives in Porirua, Wellington. I love it, man. Like, we're close as today. I think, man, I don't even remember specifically when all the healing around forgiveness began, but
Yep.
it was definitely early, and it was probably early 20s, late teens, where that where that happened, because that's when I could finally start moving on with him. And then that was around the time I got to know him better, and understand the man behind the monster, you know. And so cause I remember asking my mum, why did you stay with him? As an adult, I remember having some deep converse with my mum, going, what made you stay? And, and besides, like, some basic, like, it was out of necessity, codependency, needed one another to survive, those sorts of things. It was also, she grew up without a father, and it was really tough for her. And she truly believed in her core that no matter how tough it is, you stay together so that the father could be in the household, all that sort of stuff. But she's also opened up and admitted to me that potentially that might have been a mistake, believing that, because I believe my father done more harm than good. So when you say, like, your father wasn't there and gone from when you were four, it's always such a hard road to consider, right? Like, I often used to think, how would I have turned out if I didn't have my father as my first, main, and number one influence growing up? Would I be different, or would I be longing? What would I have been like? So that's the old shoulda, coulda, woulda type of thinking. But
Mm,
it's pointless now. Um,
yeah.
at the end of the day, at the end of the day, bro, we have the time that we've got now, and so I utilize that all the
Yep.
time. Catch up with my old man weekly on the phone. Love him a bit. He's still an alcoholic, but he's less aggressive, and he's less abusive now. Like, he can't even
Yeah.
be abusive if he wanted to. I see him, and he's a brittle, weakened old man now, and so
Mm.
it pains me to see a man that I used to think was like the toughest man in the world, and now he's like, his body's broken, he's sore, he's still, obviously his body's hugely dependent on alcohol just to kind of operate now.
That's what
Um,
happens to
and
acres. Like,
it's over.
because some people,
Yes,
when some people, then the doctor say you need to stop drinking, some people end up dying. Yeah,
they
when they
catch
do,
it,
because
you
they've
know.
because they've had it all
Because,
their life, eh, brother? Like
yeah,
like you said, their body
yes.
becomes dependent on it.
If they stop,
Yeah,
their body will probably shut down. And
yeah, I've
I
seen that
remember
happen,
seeing
brother.
my
I've seen that happen.
I've seen my old man look like he was about to pass out in his sleep, and I've seen him go a few days without, and it get the cold sweats and the physical symptoms of, like, true withdrawals. And
Yeah,
this man's been drinking for the 50 years plus, and sort of never had a long enough break to say, like, he's had a break. And so
mm,
um, that kind of substance abuse is, your body's got to grow tolerant to it, to the point where it's dependent. And so now I just see the man for who he is. I love having chats with my dad, because not only is he able to finally express his pride in me, and accept a lot of his sort of mistakes he made with me and our family. Um, I get to more or less reconnect with him on the level he's currently at, and which that saddens me sometimes, because he's quite depressed. He's quite low. He's very regretful of his life. He's not afraid to vocalize a lot of that. Messed up his whole life, he believes, and it's hard to try and turn a man around like that who's stuck in that way of thinking. And I try and remind him, man, like, you made a difference, in me and your kids. We are not continuing on the cycle that you raised us in, and we're all
mhm.
making progressive changes in the way we raise our kids. So there's a plus, there's something to cling on to. And I often bring my old man to tears when I let him know that. But yeah, it pains me to see him in such a way, but it's better than the alternative of just holding on to hate and anger, brother, and all of that stuff. So forgiving him was the first step for me, and that was, to be honest, it was quite easy. I still idolized the man at the time, still kind of do, because I guess as a child, you never quite lose that side of that person in a way. I think it might be partially genetic or something.
Possibly, brother. Possibly. You said 2021 when you went to do a bit of engineering at uni in Hamilton and you started jiu-jitsu. What made you start jiu-jitsu? Like, had you watched someone roll before?
Remember,
did you know much about jiu-jitsu at the time?
I watched a bit of the UFC and
Okay.
stuff back then. I was watching GSP and stuff, just carve up the divisions, and I was like, that looks crazy cool. And up until that point, I had done a lot of fighting, but it was nothing like on this level. I fought a lot on the streets. I fought a lot.
Oh, yeah, rumbucks here.
I just rumbles the old bloody street brawls, bro. And I a lot of those sort of stories around that is probably why I ended up in trouble a lot as well, and that's where that rap sheet came from. But at 21, I turned 21. I moved to Hamilton to begin studying at uni, but at the same time, I just found a jiu-jitsu class and started training there. And then so I was loving jiu-jitsu so much. I was living in Hamilton, but I was traveling to Tauranga 3 times a week, which is, for those who don't know, that's just an hour drive away. And New Zealand, they consider that far east.
And Aussie, that's down the road.
That's down the road, eh? That's right.
Yeah, that's down the road,
That's right, bro.
Hour.
We struggle to visit each other 15 minutes down the road now.
Yeah, brother.
Traveling back and forth weekly, 3 times a week to go and pursue this jiu-jitsu stuff. And I found that maybe 3-4 months into my studies at uni, I'd be sitting there in lecture halls, bro, and meant to be taking notes of the lesson, and I'd be writing up what I just learned at jiu-jitsu. I'd be like, oh man, what did I do here? Writing up this, and
man was hooked.
I was hooked, and I was definitely like sold, and that was me, and I wanted to pursue it with everything. Long story short, my then partner, I pitched to her. I said, look, I wanna move back. I don't want to study. I don't even want to do this. I just want to go and train every day, and I want to go become a fighter and put all the stuff that I've done all these years to use. And she supported me, and I only lasted a semester. 6 months in, left uni, packed up our things, moved back to Tauranga, found a basic job, furniture removals, worked bouncing in the weekends, but solely back just to train. And it was only like about 6 months in, had my first MMA fight, won that fight by rear naked choke in the first round. I competed at nationals the very next week in jiu-jitsu, won that. I was like, man, that makes you doing all right. Like this is doing all right for me. And
I got right at this jiu-jitsu
stuff. I can do this stuff, right? And it was the first real sort of glimpse of like, yes, hard work can pay off, but also like I found something I was good at. I finally found something that was like, yes, I can actually do this. And that's why I pursued jiu-jitsu and MMA with everything. Everything else was just the backburner. I'd done my mahi. I worked. I took care of the family and stuff, all the household stuff. My daughter would have been, what do we think, like 4 or 5 at the time. But I was zoned into pursuing a career in MMA stuff. So, it would have been around 2011. All of that happened. Then 2012, literally the next year, I went pro. Like I didn't muck around. I just fought 3 times, all back-to-back wins, and then went straight into pro the very next year after starting it. And so that's where pretty much my journey began. My fighting career began. Was from that point on. 2012, I believe.
What's the go to turn pro? Like you see, probably Nick Minute turn pro. Like what's the go to turn pro?
Often in combat sports, right, the main difference between fighting amateur and pro is you get paid. So like, okay, if you're getting paid for a fight, you're essentially fighting pro. But that's like more or less around the kickboxing world. Whereas in MMA, they've got a different rule set. So the main difference in rule sets is in your amateur rules, you're fighting 3-minute rounds, full striking, hit the ground, strikes to the head, but no elbows. So and then
no standing elbows.
So no standing elbows and no elbows
anywhere.
on the ground anywhere. And so there's like little differences like that in what you're allowed to do in MMA. And then I thought I was fighting amateur when I turned pro. Then I showed up at weigh-in, and then they tell me then and then, this is a pro fight, it's 3 5-minute rounds. And I was like, oh shit, okay.
Well, you said you showed up at weigh-in.
Yeah.
So you've been training for 5-minute rounds.
I remember I was such a ruthless bugger back then too. I'm like, 21, invincible, just came through out of the rags to riches type stuff, and like felt like I could take on the world. And I remember I was cutting weight on the way up to Auckland to go to the weigh-ins. I was cutting weight in the car, just had the heaters on blast and the sweatsuit on. Show up to weigh-in, make weight, and then that's when I'm told, oh, this is a pro fight too, by the way. It's 3 5-minute rounds, elbows and all that included. And just able to do that, we had Mark Hunt and David Tua was sitting ringside as well, which was really cool to be able to, because I remember seeing him over the ring. I was like, damn, those fellas are on. I'm so excited to be able to put on the show and fight for those guys. And
there's some guns there, but some legends
it was
right
there. Right, I'll tell you what, it was a crazy card.
The Big Usos meant to come on the podcast soon too.
They'd be awesome. That'd be incredible.
He's coming on, apparently.
It was a weird show that I fought on because it was called like Combat Central or something. And the main event, I was the co-main event, but then there are 3 more fights after me. And so the fights are boxing, kickboxing, and MMA. So the 3 different disciplines, all were the 3 main events. Now the boxing fight was Joseph Parker versus some fella from the Cook Islands. The kickboxing fight was Israel Adesanya versus Ra, which is a big name in the kickboxing world. And then the main event fight was a fella named Sam. And so I was like, first time fighting pro.
Oh, that's trippy one.
These are some big ass names on this card, because even back then, Izzy was known and he was super popular. And I just remember thinking, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Because even I think I vaguely knew Joseph Parker as well. Remember,
and this is your first fight out, brother.
This is my first pro fight. Yes, I've got the.
How did you get in there like this? How did this happen?
I don't know how I landed this. This is mental. You get these fight kits as well. When you go to a fight show, you often get like a fight card given to all the audience. And I've still got the fight card as a little bit of memorabilia. And I'm like, that's my name. But then look at these names after me. So that was cool. You carry these little wins, eh?
Of course. But
that was me starting my career. And these guys are all like obviously peak of theirs. And so that was how, that was pretty much like the starting point where it's 2012, I believe. And I was like, this is me. Like, this is my space. This is where I'm meant to be. This is where, that's kind of just when I knew it was the right fit for me.
And so how did you go in the fight?
We won that fight. Second round, triangle, by way of triangle. Dude was a great striker.
Did you stuff doing your own, eh?
It paid off, mate. And here's my thing. I wasn't, despite all the brawls and the fist fights I got into in my early years, I wasn't necessarily good at it, and I didn't necessarily like it. But this is why I fell in love with jiu-jitsu, because there's no striking. It's a gentleman's way of subduing another person, getting them to tap out through some form of like arm lock joint or choker hold or that sort of thing, and making them tap out essentially. So that then you could say, sweet, I'm gonna let you go now, but we both know I won that fight. We don't need to go up afterwards. Like we know it's done.
The thing with it too, I think, like when it comes to grappling. Like a lot of like fights in the street, a lot of them end up on the ground anyway. Like
That's right. That's right.
especially people that aren't competent with their hands or their feet, they just end up grabbing
Yeah,
people.
that's right.
And then if they don't
And
know what they're up to, oh, see you later.
you always see
Yeah,
a tackle of some sort, and most of the fights do end up on the ground by the end of the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing too. So,
Or someone jumps
yes,
in to try and break it up, and then it ends up on the ground and all that kind of stuff.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So it definitely
but
paid off learning the jiu-jitsu stuff.
yeah, I think that engineering class was good for you, cause made you say, this isn't me, cause this isn't me. I'm
This is
writing down.
yes, not my cup of tea.
Yeah, who would you say is who do you look up to in the in that jujitsu world? Do you
Hmm.
have do you have someone
Like
that you look up to that's like overseas, or is it or the people that
definitely
you've
the
learned with?
pinnacle, but definitely the peak. My probably like all-time favorite would be Hodger Gracie.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Based in London, 10-time black belt world champion. I think one of the the like sort of record setters back in the day,
Mm.
that sort of thing. I think maybe that record still holds true today. So he's a huge inspiration for me in this space in the
Hodja.
jiu-jitsu world, just from what he's
Mm.
managed to do. I like the guy's etiquette, his ethic, his whole system. He's got such an amazing school and academy underneath him as well, and worldwide now, and so yep, he's definitely a man at that degree. And now I'm probably a little biased, you see, because my trainer, my coach
Yep.
through my career was underneath Hodja, one
Okay.
of his brothers under him. So it was easy to sort of have that connection and be
Mm.
like, oh, okay, so he trains my coach. Who is he?
Yep.
And then I just obviously follow him and research him. I'm like, oh shit, this guy's the guy. He's
Mm.
one of the guys. So underneath Hodja, it would be my coach, my trainer.
Can you shout your coach
Um,
out?
Shout out to Calvin, Crazy Horse Joseph. Goes by the name of Crazy Horse. Those who know will know
Mm-hmm.
exactly why. That man's an absolute beast. I mean, as I was coming up and he'd be training me for fights, he too was training himself for fights. And then so won the New Zealand welterweight title, the New Zealand middleweight title in MMA. He's a black belt under Hodge Gracie, absolute beast of a man. Comes
Mm-hmm.
from a strong wrestling background. Um, Representing New Zealand at the Commonwealth Games. Like, man's just got accolades stacked, and so he's a huge inspiration to me in my progress in the sport. And I'll always consider that man my brother in arms. We've gone to battle together more than I've done it with anyone else. I've shed more blood, sweat, and tears for that man in our gym, which is hybrid MMA. Um, and than I could ever care to mention. It's just crazy how much years we've sort of shared those types of encounters with. So yeah, that's the man, bro. He's the man to
Yeah.
me. And
Too much.
that hybrid MMA is my original MMA gym that I trained out of, fought out of for a number of eight or so years. And then
Yep.
obviously now I run my own thing called Unleash Training Academy, or UTA, and we're based
Yeah.
here in Tauranga as well. And now I've got a string and a band of fighters and competitors under me now. So it's amazing how the circle continues,
Yeah, yeah, but part of their lineage, like you said, under
Yeah,
Hodja and down to the brother, and yeah, just part of their
yes,
whakapapa. That's the whakapapa of of your gym. There's no unleash without the bros. You know what I mean? And then there's no the
yeah,
bros without Hodja. So yeah, and
that's
then
right.
yeah, solid. That's pretty cool. But did you get to travel much overseas or anything for martial arts?
No, nowhere further than I fought and competed over in Australia for a little bit, for around
Yeah,
like 6 months or so. Fought over there, won a couple of medals, won a couple of divisions, lost some, got some seconds as well, both in jiu-jitsu and MMA.
yeah,
Learning their all sets over there was a total like eye opener. That just to be able to
mm,
fight over there, especially in like New South Wales, that area,
yeah,
um, you got to get like you got to make sure all your health codes are in check. You got to get like registered to be able to fight and all that sort of stuff. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm a fighter, I want to fight." So That's one thing I learned is in New Zealand, it's reasonably easy to just get in there, ring. Almost anyone can do it, but over there, it's just a little more regulations around everything, and I was opened up to that sort of world around fighting and competing. Was just and then also just the levels as well. Everyone's good over there. Everyone puts in mahi over there. Like everyone's got a backstory over there. Everyone's talented over there. So it's such another level that I was exposed to. Can't quite remember the year, but it was it must have been around 24. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the journey, though, eh, brother? So, what's the plans?
Yes.
Are you planning? You got a fight coming up? Is that true? Or you?
So, man, bro, I actually was meant to have a fight just Saturday gone. I was hoping to have my title here to be able to show you. Unfortunately, the show got cancelled on the day.
Oh,
So
on the
I've been
day?
preparing. Yeah, great, crazy. I
Fuck.
get the call on Saturday morning just gone. I had been training in fight camp for around 8 weeks for a title fight in full Thai. And I get the call on Saturday morning saying the show was cancelled, and I was devastated. My brother flew over from Sydney to corner me. I had two of my own students fighting on the same card. I had a ton of family and friends coming through. We booked accommodations,
Where
all of
was
that
it?
stuff. It was in Padua, so a small town
Oh, true.
in
I used to live in
Phil-
Pyro too.
No
Back
way,
when I
you.
was a kid. Yeah, but I used to live in Pyro.
I'll tell
Yeah,
you
I
what,
lived
bro.
all
Out
over
of
the
all,
place because
I didn't know what to do there.
what happened to the cousins? See, not enough LMP.
So it was, what was it? It was some sort of issues around the ring because we had a storm over the weekend as well, and they couldn't get the ring delivered from Auckland down to Paroa.
Oh,
So there
true.
was transit issues and around the ring, and so that's what I was told by the organizer anyway. Long story short,
Yeah.
we pushed the fight on to
If you would
September.
have fought on the grass, Fanu, yeah. No.
I was like, we go in the car park. We can
Yeah,
go in the
let's
car park. I don't give a
go.
shit. Because when you put that amount of mahi into
Yeah.
one event, it's only 5
And
rounds
not
for a
just
short
yourself
amount of
too.
time. It's my
Your
boys,
people
it's
too.
my family,
Yeah.
friends, everyone's come through. It's you're so devastated, bro. Because if I'm being totally honest, I sacrificed so much during that fight camp. I sacrificed time away from my family,
Mm-hmm.
my duties at home.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my work was revolved around my preparations, meaning I wasn't able to take my classes as per usual. I had to essentially pawn them off to one of my other students so that I could focus on my prep. And so doing that for 8 weeks, it added up. My mental health was struggling. I remember I was struggling with my relationship at home. Everything was a little rocky, but everyone was on board. But it's for this title. It's for this one big event. Once we get this title, then we can have a break. We're gonna have a rest, and I can work on getting my household in order, get my gym space back, give them back my students the attention that they deserve, and start cleaning up those other areas of my life. And so it was gravely devastating, brother, when we got the news about that fight show.
So did you say they're gonna have it on again later in the year? Is it?
Yeah, a different promoter, different organizer, someone who's a little more reliable. I fought for
Yeah.
him before one of the shows.
Okay.
A lot more. He owns the ring, so there's not going to be any
Oh
issues like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And so we're going to press this same fight, same title, same opponent, just later on in the year in September, and it's going to be
Okay.
local as well, so I don't need to travel.
Oh, okay. With all of that kind of stuff, is New Zealand? Are they? Because I know a lot of countries, especially over the last 20 years, weren't too hot on MMA. Like, how do things go? Like, and there's a lot of regulations that had to be peeled back in places like even New York, even here where I live in WA. Like, Pref couldn't hold an event for ages until like a
Yes.
couple of years back because of it was banned.
Yeah.
MMA.
Yeah.
So, have you found along your journey was New Zealand a bit behind, or have they been ahead of the curve in that way?
Man, I think they're a lot more accepting now. Dating back to
Oh,
that fight show where I
well, they
spoke
better
on my
be.
first pod,
Yeah.
yeah, they're definitely
That's one of the
keeping
best
up.
baddest in the world. What he's doing.
Thanks to Izzy, Kai,
Yeah.
Dan, all those guys over at CKB, man, much
Yeah.
love to those guys. Those
Eugene and the
guys
boys.
are
Yeah.
setting the bar, not just internationally, but they're opening the local audiences up to just accepting this more for like it's a sport. This
Yeah.
is it may look violent to the untrained eye, but it's essentially just a sport. And
Yeah.
we have extremely like competitive athletes and talented athletes at that here in New Zealand that are just sort of raring to go. And CKB have proven that they can stand on the world's biggest stage and bang with the world's best. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think with all of that that's happened over these last few years, the sport's become a lot more widely accepted. Um, with that being said, I've seen firsthand it's not necessarily like the greater community that's has that negative outlook on the sport. It's more like let's say you're a venue owner, you own a big stadium, you're maybe a little older and you don't know the sport so well. I'm seeing
Yeah.
that those types of people are a little more, oh, what event do you want to host here? Oh, it's a fight show, and there's often like a bit of a stigma around it. They're a little iffy around. Okay, we're gonna have to lay down some regulations and rules around this because it's a boxing event. Even if it's a charity boxing event, it'll still get that same type of, that same type of look, if you know what I mean.
Hmm. Yeah. So, but because of it's more the older heads. Like a lot of times, it's usually like anything that's innovative, or it's always the older people that are harder to move
Mm.
on things. Right?
Yes,
They,
that's right.
yeah, like going back in the days when they didn't want to give up their horse plowing the field, but the tractor leaves them behind. You know what I mean? You gotta,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah,
And so it's
understand.
happening regardless. There's a lot more people supporting the movement, and there's a lot more people on board with just being more widely accepted. It's becoming super popular now. It's becoming a thing to go and watch these events because there's so
Mm.
much more fighters now.
Do the
That
events
that
have like
increases
the ones
the
that you go
audience in
to?
regards to friends and communities and support groups supporting those fighters.
Yeah, the events they like
Do
sort of
they
the
have
ones they
what's
are
that?
they quite packed? Are they quite packed with like in the audience itself? Is there quite a lot of people showing up to these shows that they have or
Yes.
like locally?
I, and when I was fighting in the MMA,
Mm.
yeah, the MMA ones, those ones are stacked. Those are the biggest stadiums up in Auckland. Um, uh, in particular, it's got to be probably one of, if not the biggest MMA show hosted here in New Zealand. It's by Shuriken Fight Series. They host the biggest show here, and
Oh
that's a
yes,
stacked crowd.
I
As
think I
busy
seen
as I mean, and then you
the
go
sis
King of the Ring, which is
Ravinda
also up
Hunia.
in
She does a bit of
Auckland.
mahi
Busy
at the
crowd,
shurikens there.
stacked room, but also televised and widely watched around the country. Um, and then you
Yeah,
got tons of other shows as well. Tons of others. Yeah.
yeah, solid. This is Ravinda Hunia. I've seen her. She does a lot of like mahi around there, like a
Yes,
lot of
yes,
yeah, because she's
that's
been
right.
on the podcast before. But I see her doing a lot of
Sorry, my legging.
mahi with that shuriken. Is your internet lagging, brother, or was it me? You very pixelated on this side, but
Is she?
delayed. What's going on here? Let us be great out here, Podcastville.
Uh, let me check it. Yes, no, I'll check this. Hmm.
I got full bars over here, my brother. Um, that's the joys of doing it remotely, fam. Sometimes the internet doesn't agree with you, but that's all right. Um, yeah, as cool as it is to be able to podcast people all over the world without having to leave home and without them having to leave their houses, you also have to understand that sometimes the internet don't work as well. But grateful for the brother Eppy. Hopefully he can come back in, rejoin, and we can finish it up. But that's my bro Eppy. I met him on TikTok a few years back, around when he first started on TikTok, and yeah, we used to battle and have yarns, and I even used to just sit in his live sometimes and chat to the bro. Oh, here he is. He's back now. Can you
Yeah,
hear me,
how's
brother?
yes.
Yeah, better,
Sure, the
better.
labels there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Okay, yeah. I was just saying, Ravinda Hunia, brother. She was because she's been on the podcast before, but I see her with that. What's it called? Shuriken Fight Series or whatever. I see her
Yes.
doing some
Yeah.
mahi there. But
Yes.
shout out to her too. A lot of her because she, she's been in a little way a pioneer in a lot of ways, a pioneer in the media space for MMA
Mm.
in our land too, brother. Shout out to her.
Yeah, there's so much moving parts to this piece that it's just. I think shout out to anyone and everyone who's making an impact or doing their part, whether it
Yes.
be a small gym owner in a small countryside, uh, like who maybe only has their blue or purple belt in jiu-jitsu but wants to share that knowledge with a couple of youngins around the area in their backyard,
Yeah. Let's go.
to the guys who are running those state-of-the-art facilities well over 100 plus students, and so who are keeping the wheels turning there as well. It's just so many parts to this game, but it's so awesome to see that this sport is essentially taking off here.
Yeah. So what do you find when it comes to coaching in there? What do you find the most fulfilling part of it?
Man, it's a great question, bro. I think in coaching, that's where I found another passion. In the beginning, I found that passion in like finding a good use for my hands and my body. That
Yep.
was a healthy outlet. Now, when I teach, man, it's the next level, bro. Like I teach well over 100 students a week between two academies here in Tauranga. So I essentially work as an instructor. It's my part-time to full-time everyday job, Monday to Saturday,
Hmm.
and I'm working with kids from the ages of 4 to one of my eldest adults was 52. And so the
Wow.
huge demographic and huge age range, and the students are all the same in regards to their willingness and wanting to learn the sport, whether it be jiu-jitsu, MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, and so on. And I think I love it, bro. And the thing I love most about it is I think when you get that like light bulb moment when you see one of your students get something, or you see a student overcome something, or you see there's so much different parts of the teaching, but in general, it's when you see that what you're teaching is being retained. That's a huge win for me. When I see a student overcome their own self doubt, when I see them say, I can't do this, and I say, I'll try again then, and try again. And then they do it, and you go, I thought you couldn't do it. And it's like all these little wins and little moments. I literally will go to a class in an hour and a half time from now. I'll train my youth Muay Thai class, then I'll train my adult Muay Thai class, and I'll train my youth Jiu Jitsu class. And I'll see all of these moments probably happen multiple times tonight alone.
Mm.
And so to be able to say I do that for mahi, for a job, I truly believe I've made it already.
Mm.
I love genuinely love what I'm doing, and I get paid to do it, and it's coincides with my ambition and my goals in regards to my own personal journey in this space. Obviously, I'm not just a trainer. I want to fight. I want to still compete. I'm still only 34. I believe I've got a few years left in the tank. So it all coincides and complements each other very well. I'm very fortunate in that way.
Yeah. So, did you always intend to be a coach? Like when you started learning, did you think like one day I want to teach people this, or did you just literally only want to do it just to compete?
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, not at all, bro. I was like, I just want to fight. I want to be a fighter. I just want to get out there and fight anyone and everyone. And I remember in my younger 20s, I was doing just that. I was still
Yeah.
so struggling. I was struggling with my bad habits. I was still heavily abusing alcohol and all that sort of stuff during that time.
Mm.
So I was I was reckless. It's probably like the safest way to put it, and that's putting it lightly. And so
Mm.
back then, I had no intention of teaching. I was quite selfish in my learnings. I'd show up as a student, but I was the most attentive. I was there listening, and I was
Yeah.
there training twice as hard as anyone else. And I think that's all I cared about in the beginning was getting better myself. But as the years got by on me, I start to develop these other sides of the sport that hey, you can actually make a career out of this. I can build a gym, I can build a team, I can build a club, an academy. I can take students to fights. I can take a student from fresh off the street, troubled past, like myself, and turn him into a professional fighter. And it's like, damn, okay, I could do that too. And now I want to do that. So the teaching thing, that just kind of happened a little bit by accident. And maybe that's where I was headed all along, just didn't realize it.
Yeah, I feel like just in knowing you a little bit from the TikTok journey and seeing you operate, and even sometimes, brother, go to sleep and just sit in the live, or just be in your live on the FYP, just listening to some of your corridors, brother. And even when you and Mate Iwarang used to do some of those chats
Mm,
too, brother.
yes.
I used to listen. Um, yeah, I feel like it's probably your purpose, but it's probably what been born here to do, cuz in a lot of ways. Uh, I feel like that with what I'm doing now. I feel like this is what I
Mm,
was born to do, cuz I was born to talk to people and hear their journeys, share them, and then and just connect people. Being able to get a few artists together on tracks and connect different people. Now, like I think that's I feel now because I haven't really shared, but a year ago, because in May, just gone a year from when I got number one on TikTok in the rankings, weeklies, and all that, which was a goal of mine. I just wanted to do it just to see if we could crack
yeah,
it.
that's massive. Yeah.
We got like number one in there, and after heaps of getting bananaed and all that stuff, I got heaps get bananaed all the time. But I got it, but cracked it. But then there's a lot of other stuff that I pushed to the side, and I felt like I don't know, I just didn't feel like I was living my purpose. And then I was in that moment you spoke on before. I went to go hang myself because I was. So this was a year ago. So since we've known each other,
Mm,
and yeah, so I was sitting there. I had the old extension cord all roped up, chuck it around the neck, and then my baby wakes up and then he's teething and he's crying, and I think, oh, I gotta go and console him. I can't like just let him fucking scream, but I'll come back here and finish the job after I'm done. So I go
mm,
and grab him. When I grab him, I pick him up and console him, and then the tears fall down, and I'm like, fuck, what's going on? Like, why am I here? Just said to myself, I want to build a podcast. I wanted to do it forever, bro. Like probably 5 years before I started this, I wanted to create one, but
mm,
I don't know if it's not even that I didn't know where to start. I just didn't pull the trigger. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
so I said to myself, then I'm gonna until January next year, which is just gone January 2024. I'm gonna launch a podcast, and I'm gonna make the biggest podcast in the world. It's a crazy statement, but if we're not shooting for the top, what are we
Yeah.
doing? So that's what I
Yes.
said to myself. And between now and then, which was May last year till January, I'm gonna do everything I can to just figure out how I want to do it all and how it's got to be and what I got to learn to make it happen and this and that, and just daily deposit every day something into creating it. And then once I do, I'm just going to daily deposit every day into making it as big as I can and connect with as many interesting people from all walks of life and with interesting stories and share them to the world. And a big thing for me, because too, I think we grow up and we hear stories of Aristotle, Plato, Homer, not the Simpson, but the scholar
Yep.
Socrates. All of these Greek philosophers are put on a pedestal from 2,000, 2,500 years ago. At the same time, our people, the Pacifica people, were traversing the oceans using the stars before they could even read and write, the Greeks. And that's not a comparison to be like we're better than them, but it's to say that we got cool stories too. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And our stories should be all around the world. It shouldn't just be one movie like Moana. You know what I mean? One like little Disney thing. Like we can put our stories out there. So that's a big purpose and that are behind what I'm doing here, and it's a big driver of this. And yeah, so yeah, January I launched. Now, I might pull this conversation forward to next week because I really enjoyed this. But I've filmed like over 260 of these and since January,
wow.
brother. I've
Yes.
this is I've got like 220 released so far, like in less than 6 months, but it doesn't feel like mahi. And I'm just hearing
Yeah.
you speak on how much you enjoy the coaching, or like how it fulfills you, and then understanding you a little bit and getting to know you more here. I feel like it's your purpose, brother, because I feel like this is mine. You know what I mean? I want to do this till I'm old
Mm,
and grey, brother. People are like, "Oh, you're making money." I was like, "Wow, no, I'm not even making money off of this yet." And one, I didn't even start it with the intent to create a revenue stream. I know that's a byproduct of what will happen down the line. You know what I mean? But I'm just enjoying these, brother.
mm,
Having quartered those people like yourself, and then even people like some people that I've known for years, and I'll hit them up and I'll be like, "Want to jump on the podcast?" And they're seeing, like, I guess, the social caliber of some of the people that have come on, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not famous enough." I'm like, you don't have to be famous. Like, you got a cool story. Let's just yarn. And they're like, "Oh, I'm not that cool." But
yes.
and then as we sit down and get to talk about them, then they realize, oh, maybe I do have a little story. We all do. But anyway, we're here for the great Eppy. I just wanted to share that, brother, because
No,
it really
that was
resonated.
incredible, brother. I appreciate you so much for sharing that. And bro, like only people who have been at the end of that rope and have sat there contemplating, hit those depths of willing to say goodbye to it all, can
Mm,
truly understand that the amount of mana and strength that it takes to be able to go from that to pursuing something that is bigger than yourself, that is
yeah,
far beyond. Like I love how you've worded it too, as you're gonna have the greatest podcast in the world. I truly believe you, brother. And I truly
yeah,
believe
brother.
you've got everything to achieve that. It's oh man, that's such an incredible turnaround for yourself, brother. And it's also still quite recent as well.
Yeah, recent as,
So,
brother. Recent
yes,
as,
it's
but
quite
like I
recent.
feel alive, my brother. I feel alive. Like
Yes.
sometimes I do 8 of these in a day, cuz, but I don't feel tired. Like I feel
That's crazy.
physically
Yeah.
tired sometimes, but I don't feel
Mm,
drained. I don't feel
yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to do this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like when you're living in your purpose, or in your, and you understand your why, and like you said, I like daily, I'm putting a mirror up to myself, and the big thing is I don't
Mm,
want to go back to that point again. I don't want to be there, wanting to
mm,
fucking end it all again, and I want to be here for my children. I want to see my mokopunas, you know what I mean? I want to see my grandchildren one
mm,
day, and I want them to, like you said before, brother. I want them to think, not only do my children think, but my dad's the man, but my mokopunas to be like, my koro was like, he did some cool stuff, you know what I
mm.
mean? So yeah, and, that's this. And another big driver of this is, did you know your grandparents much at all, or did
Nah,
you?
nah, they passed early.
So I think, and that's what I say to a lot of people, or even your parents, man. Like, if you could have, say, let's say, 100 hours worth of content, or even an hour or 2 hours of your grandparents speaking on their why and their journey and how they came to be where they were, but you could listen to that, like you could have that in your hand and hear that, put that in your ears and listen to that whenever you wanted. Like, what what price would you pay for that, brother? I think that's like a priceless thing,
Yes.
right? To have that. So, like, this is what we're doing here, brother, for years to come.
Mm,
If you never do another podcast again, brother, like, your children and your mokopunas can always come and listen to what their koro had to say here. You know what I mean? If
yes.
your lives never get saved, or your content, if you never speak in content again, they can always come here and find it. And that's what drives me too, is to, like, people
Mm,
can be here for their generations to come. They can always come and listen to this. And that's the journey of, I want to make the biggest podcast in the world, is to, like, if it is, then everybody that's lived on this for years to come can be heard. You know what I mean? And
mm,
that's not competition to Joe Rogan or anything. That's just like, hey, I believe I got some cool stuff to say, and I know heaps of cool people, and I'm gonna meet more cool people out there that are gonna come on, and hopefully we can, get to that echelon and put our people's stories on too. You know what I mean?
that's right, brother. I love it. I love it. That's the thing. People will say you're crazy until you actually
Yeah.
achieve it, and they'll call you a
Well,
genius. Eh?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Or they call us crazy. They were calling, like, even my
oh,
father and brother. They were like, "Oh, everyone does podcasts like before I started, right? Everyone does
yeah,
podcasts," and I was like, "Yeah, cool. Like, there's enough air for us all to breathe, enough kai for us all to
yes,
eat." But, like,
yeah,
they're not me, and I'm not them. So, you know what I mean? The only person I'm going to compare myself is to myself, like, daily, yesterday, the day before, the month before,
mm,
and then as we progress, years before. Like, am I better than last year? And not just in the podcasting, but in life. That's what I'm trying to do. So, whatever, yeah, good on them, and power to
yeah.
them. And Yeah, I don't even see anyone as composition but my own, just my own dreams and aspirations, and yeah, just doing it daily. Cause they the quote
Man,
that I read, it's just my screensaver. I know it off by heart, but I like reading it. I feel like it's I feel like I'm Drake or something. No, let's not use Drake. Kendrick. No, 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 you got sassed up there. I don't know if you see that, but no, no, no. But like I like reading because I feel like there's rappers when they're in the booth, yeah, reading off their phone. But this quote is on my phone, brother. It says, "Discipline means telling yourself every day that you have to give up instant gratification in order to achieve bigger rewards later on." And I don't know, like for
Mm,
me, that's what it is. I just trying to apply that every day to this and
man,
to
I
what
hope you
I'm.
told us enough too, brother. You're absolutely killing it. To say, when I looked at the Mind the Mic podcast page and I
Yeah,
saw how much eps you've done, I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, man, the brother has been grinding. And to think, I was thinking to myself, I'm sure he wasn't doing this when we were catching
Nah,
up on TikTok.
not at all.
So
6 months ago,
and
brother.
that
Five
means
months
in the
ago.
short amount of time we're like, and so you've killed it. You've been smashing it this whole time. And then also, as I've come to know you, not just here, but even back in TikTok and such, I remember I was doing a live stream. I was traveling to Auckland
Yeah,
for a day trip or something, and then I remember you joined on the live stream and jumped in
yeah.
one of the
I think
chat
we're going
boxes, and
to
we're
Kevin Hart. Eh?
that's right, Kevin. That's right, brother. Great memory, bro. My bro, great memory. And I remember thinking, man, I love the way the brother Shubs talks. You communicate exceptionally well. You can carry a conversation well. You listen very well as well, because that's obviously another great part of communicating is being able to retain when someone else is talking and then relaying that back. It's a great skill that I think is lacking in a lot of people these days. And so I feel exceptionally comfortable, brother, sharing and talking with you and conversing with you, sharing the space. When you know you're vibing with someone on a higher level, when there's no fight for the mic, there is more or
Yeah,
less, it should be like, share the mic podcast or something, because brother,
yeah,
you do such an exceptional job sharing the space and allowing, well, even myself, I sort of thought I'd hit some levels today, but I didn't realize I'd go into a lot of the stuff, which is great. It's amazing. I love being in those kinds of settings and rooms where I can actually hit those levels, because you got to find special individuals that can actually bring that out of you. Eh? And so I'm sure you are, but I hope you know, brother, I'm exceptionally proud of you. You are doing an amazing job. You are absolutely killing it in this space. I have every confidence in me that you are going to achieve this and smash this podcast space. And man, yeah, thanks for the invite, brother. You're absolutely killing it. It's an
nah,
inspiration, bro.
nah. It's been a pleasure, brother. And yeah, just because I think when it comes to the communication side, like obviously we can always get better. And I'm learning, brother. And but there's definitely I just enjoy it because I enjoy hearing what people have to say and then learning things. Like like, and
Mm.
you'll resonate with this philosophy that I've always lived by too is white belt for life. You know what I mean?
Yes,
'Cause
yes,
always can always be added to, cause sort of thing. You know what I mean? And I sort of there's a lot of things that I'll probably say on here that I won't agree with in a year's time or 10 years time. Because I'll learn more shit and I'll be like, oh man, I was
mm,
probably wrong there. You know what I mean? But I also reserve the right to be able to do that, and so should everybody else. You know what I mean? Life is a
yes,
journey, cuz we don't have it figured out. If we got it figured out, what the fuck is the point of being here? You know what I mean?
that's right. Yes,
You know what I
yes,
mean? Yeah, so yeah, and people will be like, "Oh, yeah, you put up so much, like you should put up if you want views." I was like, "I don't care, like I just want to share stories. The views will come, cuz
yes.
the views will come. We post 20 clips on like 10 different platforms every day. We post like there's an interview that comes out every day that's released every day. Also do live shows like I was a big Warriors fan, brother. We watch the Warriors play every week with me and the homies. I also got I don't know if you remember the Also Liquor. Him and I do a show called UBU on here as well, where we just vent about life really and what we're going through and being fathers and he's
Mm,
Samoan, I'm Maori, being Polynesians and then I got a show with the sis Maddie. We talk about she brings quotes and we break down quotes called empathy and energy. Me being the energy, her being empathy, and sort of like, there's the good, like, I got, and then I got another show that I'm starting with another guy. Those are all like sort of live streaming shows that we do too. So there's so much content, and I know it's crazy, but like, again, it doesn't feel like work, and I feel like I'm living my purpose, and I'm a baby. I'm still learning, cuz this is way early. Like, I haven't even had my first year yet. Yeah, like, and I can't wait to be old and grey and still doing this, brother. And same as you, my brother. I just want to, before you go though, I've got a couple of little quick questions if we can.
Just fire away, brother.
For those, give us your Mount Rushmore of New Zealand combat athletes.
Man, at the pinnacle, it's gotta be Israel Adesanya, and basically all the boys on the roster from CKB. I think even up there with Israel is Dan Hooker, having set the bar. I remember watching him. He was NZ's first New Zealand-based fighter in the UFC. I remember watching him with my daughter on my lap at the time. She would have been around maybe 5 or 6 or something. I can't quite remember. But she's a child, and I was screaming at the TV so loud, just go Dan, go Dan. He was stuck in a tight situation with a heel hook, and he came back and just won the fight. And so Dan Hooker and Israel Adesanya. So that's the captain and the champ. Much respect to them.
But would you? So Mount Rushmore's 4 though. So we got to get.
Sorry, we got 4. Okay,
yeah, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
Mount Rushmore's 4. Yeah.
Cool. So that'll be like my idols in the famous world, right? So we got my coach, who's Calvin Joseph. He's not only sort of believed in me, but sort of led me to believe in myself and showed me that I could do the thing as well. And after all the years of blood, sweat, and tears he poured into me and developing me as a fighter and a trainer, I got to pay respects to my lineage there. And lastly, coming from the New Zealand realm would be, man, right? Funnily enough, he's not necessarily involved in the combat sports, but funnily enough, like the name that came to mind was my dad. He's still up there. It must be that inner child of me still idolizing the man that I saw, and so despite his many flaws, growing up watching him act out all of these flaws, I come to learn, like, I learned a shit ton of good things from that man. He taught me resilience, strength, determination, all of those things that without, I wouldn't have become a professional MMA fighter. I would never have made it this far. I would have given up a long time ago. So yeah, I got to put that man up there. Even though he's not necessarily involved in the combat sports sense of things, I put him up there.
Yeah. All right, brother. I know there's a plethora of moves you can use, but someone says to you, you can only use one jiu-jitsu submission for the rest of your life. You can only use one submission for the rest of your life. What's your go-to?
Probably a triangle. I'm a long limb fellow, got long legs, and I remember it was my all-time favorite coming up the ranks. I used to throw it up a lot in competitions. It's how I won my first professional MMA fight. I used it multiple times. I think, it's definitely got to be the triangle.
Triangle, solid. Kai-wise, brother, if you could only have one meal for the rest of your life, every day you got to eat this meal, what do you choose? It's a meal, not just one food, but a meal.
Okay, the whole meal. Okay.
Yeah, whole meal.
Man, what a great question, brother. I think it's got to be my all-time favorite, which is eggs Benedict and creamy mushrooms on the side. So I like a good egg on a bagel. Extra hollandaise sauce.
What meat are you putting in there? Are you like ham or salmon?
I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, that's right.
That's all right. I've been off meat now for about 4.5 years, so I don't even think I'll be happy with that.
Yeah. No, I forgot that you're a vegetarian too, brother. Oh, I guess before we get out of here too, on that, brother, what do you think being a vegetarian has done for you?
Man, honestly, I've had this question often, and bro, to be honest, my honest answer, don't even notice the difference. I know I'm cheap at a shop for. I go to the supermarket, bro. I don't need to go down the meat aisle. Haven't been down in a while. I'm easy to serve because I'm not a fussy vegetarian, so I'll just eat what's going. minus the meat, obviously. Also easy to serve to at parties, barbecues. I just don't need the meat. So no, my main difference physically in regards to, like, let's say performance wise, no, I haven't noticed a single difference, right? I might randomly decide I'm just going to start eating meat again tomorrow or something, and
Yeah,
see if
yeah.
there's any differences then. But no, I think the biggest difference was in the mental game, was the ability of being like, man, I can be around that stuff. It looks delicious. I love watching others enjoy it, and I can cook it.
Mm,
I can hunt. I can kill. I can fish. There's no issues for me there. I wasn't around sort of that side of things. Why I became a vegetarian.
yeah.
Um,
Why did you?
Man, oh, shout out to this program, bro. If you haven't watched it on Netflix, um, Game Changers.
Oh, game
Watch
changers.
that,
Yeah.
Game Changers. And so I think that inspired or tipped me over the edge, because leading up to watching that, I remember thinking, oh man, I might just quit eating meat. Like, I don't necessarily need to. I heard these health benefits. And then later on, about a week or two later, I watched Game Changers, and I was like, okay, sweet, I'm sold. And so that's what sort of turned me over there, and I haven't looked back since.
Mhm. But like you said, maybe in the future you might. But
Yeah, and
at
I'm
this
not
stage,
above it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Before, so when was it? So the last time you had meat was like 4 years ago, or have
yeah,
you
my
had it?
30th birthday.
Oh,
I haven't touched
solid.
it since. I mean, yeah, I haven't touched it since.
Well done, brother. Power to you. Give us superpower wise before all the besides all the superpowers you already have. Which one would you choose,
Mm.
or maybe even create one if you could?
Hmm. If I could create all the superpower I would have, would be, oh, that's a good one. Is probably, that's a good question, but it'll either be something to do with time, be able to go back, or control time, back or
Mm,
forward.
I like that. Okay, let's say you could go back in time. What era
Mm.
would you go to? Like to say time machine wise, if you could go back
Yeah,
into
I
one
thought
era in
about
time,
this. Say,
where would you
I've
go to?
always I'm a big fan of the Viking shows and all those sort of
Oh,
old
okay.
English shows, and so
Nordic
I would
things.
love, yeah, go back to those times and see how they operated, see how things really were. Were they really that
Mm.
big, or
Yeah, actually, yeah.
has the
Did
things
they?
all been sort of propped up?
Yeah, that's
Um,
a good one. Were they really that big? Yeah, yeah. Man,
yeah,
I mean, the
and so
mountain
yeah,
mother is pretty big now. Hey, those
he's pretty
Icelandic dudes.
big. I do believe it. And then I'd also want to go back further to even before Egyptian times. How did they actually do those things? How they built the pyramids? How, like,
Yeah,
I'd love to get all the real
Anunnaki.
answers as to, yeah, exactly. Track it way back. Are these giants legit? Are they real? Are they real? Can I go back and see them for myself? And so yeah, I'd
Mm.
go pretty far back, all the way to our beginning, probably.
You know the Vikings, just on you know the Viking part. You know how they have horns in the thing, and
Yes.
they like
T-
think apparently that was false. Say like they didn't even
Total
find any.
misconception.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But it was
yeah.
drawn by it was an artist that painted it in like the 1700s, and that's what like made people start putting those in their things. I can't remember who the artist was. Yeah,
Really?
he,
So it
yeah, yeah.
must have been
So
an accurate depiction.
yeah, yeah. So some artists like drew fucking horns on in their what do you call it, the helmets, and then from then
Yeah.
on, people started created like thinking Vikings, had, but there's never ever been any of their helmets that have been discovered with any like horns in them or anything like that. So, yeah, history, eh? His story. Hey, narrative.
Yes.
The one who wrote it, eh, cuz? Okay, brother, give us visualization 10 years from now. What do you hope life to be like at 44 years of age for the brother Eppy?
44 years of age myself, I would like to see myself as retired from the competing stages of my journey and career, and fully be engulfed in my gym spaces. My students, I'd love to see a lot of them achieve greatness in this space, whereas a lot of them have that potential. And so professionally, I'd be retired with a flourishing gym space and a bunch of students all flourishing in the same space. Um, that's my professional career. Probably, yeah, definitely be retired as well. Um, Outside of that, and then with my family, in regards to us, I think I definitely coming from a big family. I would like more children, despite
Let's
how
go.
tough it's been. Being reminded of all the, the teething stages and all the things that's
Oh, yeah,
and no
brother. Talk
sleep.
about it.
It's I forgot all
Woo!
about all of it.
Wait, people think
Even
they have no sleep before they have kids, eh? Holy rick.
it's crazy,
Yeah,
yeah.
you got no
And
idea,
so
cuz.
this, and despite that, I think yeah, I'd love a little mini tribe running
what
around. So more children on the cards.
what does Mumsy reckon? Is she down for a few more?
Uh, she's ask her in a year. Ask her in a year. So
No, hundred.
before Boy was born, we definitely spoke on the stuff that yeah, would love a few more. But just being reintroduced to what it's actually like, the craziness of it all, it's a challenging time. So it's definitely got to pick the timing on that one.
Mhm.
But at 44, yes, and potentially living abroad somewhere overseas, I would
Oh,
definitely
okay.
like to. I have aspirations to raise my kids somewhere abroad, somewhere different, widen their perspective and views of the world by showing them the world. So um, coming from a small town in Porirua, very limited mental space around there. Everyone moves at a very delayed, slow pace, and growth is very rare down there. So there's not a lot of change happening within the groups that I grew up with. And so moving out from there, coming to Tauranga, eyes opened up. Moved over to Aussie for a little bit, eyes opened up even more. And so I've come to learn the importance of what travel can do to one's perspective. So definitely be living abroad somewhere as well, probably.
Mm, I think, brother, like as someone who's traveled quite a bit,
Mm,
like I really, really believe that because I believe that travel broadens the mind, unlike anything you can do in life, especially when you
mm,
come from not just small towns, but somewhere that's isolated, like we're one of the most isolated countries in the world. We're far away from everywhere. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Even where I am in Perth, like it's the most isolated major city in the world. Like, you know what I mean? It's closer to you can get it's closer to get from Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane to Auckland than it is to get to Perth. Like we're
Mm,
ages away from everything. But and I think people that like you said, like living in small towns and you think that's your world, you want to protect, like this is my block or this is my street, this is our hood. Like, bro, the world's so much bigger
that,
because you know what I mean. And then when you
yes.
and then as you try as you or for me personally, from my perspective, as I journeyed around the world, like a lot of my hara, a lot of my I guess like attitudes sort of to started to dwindle away and started to fall away because I realized like cuz like yeah, obviously we're proud to be from where we're from, and like our little small couple of islands at the bottom of the world. But bro, there's so many people that all want the same things that speak different languages, but they, you know what I mean. They're all just trying to figure shit out too. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
yeah, hard. That actually, I think travel even for me, because a lot of people like, I don't know if you're religious at all. Are you religious at all now? Or you said you weren't as a kid,
um,
or
no, my mind is open to higher spaces, higher beings, and all of that
yeah,
sort of stuff. I
yeah.
just don't uh, you know
Subscribe to a religion or
subscribe
anything.
to yeah one
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, me too. But I'm on the sort of the same waka. Like, grow up with a lot of different, I guess Christian sort of influences, the different, Catholics, Mormons, all these kinds of ones around the whānau. But yeah, for me, like traveling in there, you also see like far, like all of these fellas of whatever they believe in. We all want the same things. We want our kids to be safe, fed, roof over
Mm,
the head, like you know what I mean, and whether you worship whoever, you know what I mean? And I just like, and I'm on the same walker, brother. But yeah, I think it just, it has to like, I don't know, like I'm not a neurologist or anything, but it has to like open some different pathways traveling, because it has for
mm,
me and many other people that I've spoken to, and many people that I know that have traveled like all over the place, and compared to a lot of people that I know that haven't, but also don't, because obviously you can still have an open mind without it.
mm,
But I just see like there's a lot of difference in like thinking and like a lot more openness to things. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing, brother, and that's what I envisioned to do. Well, that was the plan before COVID, was to do that anyway with my kids, and then obviously ended up having a couple more. But yeah, that's the way. That's the maybe we'll see each other around the place, brother. Traveling around, I'm sure we'll catch up in the flesh, brother, for sure.
All right, 100%. Yes.
Last one, brother. Any pieces of advice from Eppy as a man, as a father, as a coach, as a martial artist, as a fighter? Anything that you want to leave with anybody that listens to this? That might be in that same position or any of the positions that you've been in, which is many.
Yeah, sure, bro. It's there's so much pieces you could share here, and it's the old cliche stuff that you hear going around. It's the whole never giving up, don't give up on yourself, all that good stuff. And so my piece of advice would be to just prove them wrong, because I think as a man, you're already on the back foot. You're born on it. You're born with no value. You're born. If the rest of the world is already going to tell you you ain't anything until you make yourself something, then you're already on the back foot. So prove them all wrong. I've learned to be a lot less sensitive around it all as I've learned through my own healing journey, that playing it safe and just trying to be sensitive to others is it's kind of diminishing our sort of our mana, our ability to just go. This is what I said to you earlier about the whole keep that chip on your shoulder, bro. You carry it well. Like show them all what's up. Like, I tell a lot of people, like, you're gonna prove them wrong, bro. You're gonna smash it in whatever space you've chosen to pursue. And I love how isn't it funny how in pursuit of our ambitions we find our purpose, and so I was first ambitious in this sport. Now I found the purpose in teaching it to others. And it's crazy how we've got to start there. I think as a man, it's exceptionally hard in this day and age in society. And being born without value is exceptionally hard because no one's going to think you're important unless you make yourself important. And the only way we can do that as men is we've got to go through the trials, go through the tribulations. We, in retrospect, we have to suffer a little bit in order to build that resilience and character. And that's where we build our mana, our strength, our willingness to overcome. Now, unfortunately, the odds are stacked against us in regards to support. But I'm seeing so much more men speak up now on these fronts around supporting one another. And then even some females now are starting to become enlightened to this. It's almost like they're just finding out. This has been the age-old thing of men since the dawn of day, And so my main piece of advice to men is to prove them all wrong. And even if it's the voice in your head, you have to prove wrong, because that voice in your head probably isn't even your own anyway. It would have been put in there by someone at some point. No one grows up thinking that they're worthless. No one grows up believing that they're nothing. Have you ever seen a 1-year-old? It doesn't walk around like they don't own the land they walk on. Like
yeah, sure. They about their life.
You know what I mean? They're about their life. They're born with that confidence and stuff. So
yeah.
I mean, and then there's that, like,
that's powerful, because you're right. So much stuff pulls you down. Even cousin and even like the whole system, right? The system that we live in when it comes to schooling and all of that shit is set up for you to be a robot to work in a fucking factory. Like literally, the way that the Rockefellers intended the Western school system to be, it's still the same school system that exists today. That's not to say that you can't, that doesn't mean that, like, oh, obviously, if you want, like, if I get surgery, on my brain, I probably want someone that's gone to university and studied that shit to fucking operate on my brain. But I say, like, the whole system though was created. That's why we're taught to sit down, shut up, line up, put our hands up when we want to speak, like all of that, and ring, like an assembly bell, like an assembly line. That's what the bell is like. All of that shit is systematic, but it also it keeps us, it keeps us bound to the system. They put the kids into schools to brainwash them, while the parents work for the system that they were already brainwashed into to keep that system going. That's why most entrepreneurs don't finish high school, That's why I'm,
Yeah.
a lot of them don't even go to high school. They're like some of the most successful, self-made, came from the dirt entrepreneurs because it's not taught in school. All of that kind of shit, you know what I mean? Like all of that, and this again, I'm not like a lot of people. Are, oh, you always rubbish the school system because you didn't do good at school. I actually did, but I just got bored. You know what I mean? Like, and that's another thing. I was just like, bro, this ain't for me, cuz you know what I mean? Like, this ain't for me. And I sort of realized that. And I think also if you only leave your child's learning up to a school and you don't teach them like yourself as a parent, like you know what I mean,
Mm.
then of course I've seen these studies on kids that start school, and you spoke on it with the 1-year-old. You don't see a 1-year-old running around like fucking scared of anything. They just get
Mm.
into everything, and even a toddler that starts crawling, like they just
Yeah.
into everything, you know what I mean? You're like, hey, you little bugger, you know what I mean? Get out of
Yeah.
there. But there's just naturally adventurous, because that's us by nature from the outset,
Yeah.
without any para, without any dramas put on us, without any of our parents' stuff, getting thrown on, or any of the
Mm.
world stuff throwing on top of us. We are free in a sense,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Free when it comes to thought, free for expression, free to
Mm.
adventure. And it's only the limits that our surroundings put on us, or the people that our upbringings put on us, that stop us from being
Yeah.
whatever we can be. But the study that I looked at, it talks about how every child that's 5 years old starts school has the imagination to create Harry Potter, like their own Harry Potter, their own Narnia. You name whatever kind of book series you want, but every child at that age has that creativity to do that. But by the time the children of those that finish high school, only 5%
Mm.
of those remaining kids that do finish still have that, because it's been
Yeah.
culled out by the system. You know what I
Mm.
mean, brother? And I'm with you on that. Like, be free, baby. Hey, like, chase
Yeah.
your dream. You know what I mean? When you chase your dreams, it's usually the ones around you that tell you why you shouldn't, or why it's
Yes.
too late, or everybody
Yeah.
does a podcast, or everybody's an MMA fighter, and like, yeah, like
Yes.
but it's their own insecurities because of whatever's happened to them, or things that they never chased that stops them from doing it. So yeah,
Mm.
that's just
I
adding to
couldn't.
Eppy's advice. Go get it, baby.
I couldn't agree more, brother. Keep that creativity, keep those creative juices flowing. I mean, like
Mm.
I was saying too, in that pursuit of your ambition, you
Mm.
will find your purpose amongst all of that journey and
That's
all that
it.
sort of stuff. It'll come into fruition. So appreciate it, brother. Yeah, that was
That's
awesome.
all, my brother. I just want to say, brother, time's the most valuable commodity we have as human beings. The one thing we can never get
Mm.
back. We can always get back money, things, but time spent is time lost. So I appreciate you, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing nearly 2 hours of your time with myself and anybody that listens to this for years to come. And I know this won't be the last time that we sit down on here, but also in the flesh, my brother. We got to make that flesh thing happen sometime soon when things align.
Most definitely, brother. And thank you so much for having me, brother. I appreciate the invite. It's been so eye-opening just being here and chatting with you as well. I also often need to reflect a little more on my journey as well, just to sort of see where I've come from and where I'm at and where I'm going. And I
Mm.
love how you've mapped out the entire interview today around that stuff. And man, yeah, what a journey it's been so far, onwards and upwards from here, brother.
Oh, you did it, brother. I just asked questions on what you told me. That's, that's all it is. That's all I do, brother. People be like, "Do you prepare questions?" Not really.
Yeah,
No, just jump
natural.
on and have a yarn, and just because I guess in there, that's just your journey. So whatever you tell me,
Mm,
then we'll go from there. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah. Hard. Unless we have specific things that we're coming to talk about, but no one knows you like you, brother. So let's go.
mm, mm.
Big
Nah,
love, my man.
thank you, brother.
Make
Big
sure you
love, my
follow my
brother.
brother Eppy too. Where do people follow you on it? So I can put it all.
Man, you can find me at Eppy_187 on TikTok.
Yeah.
My IG is UTA, which is our gym based, and so that's
Oh
all our
yeah.
gym based content as well as my fighting career content as well.
Yeah. I'll put it all in the description too. So you better check my brother out. If he's in Tauranga, go check his gym out too. If he's scared, or maybe not. Might be too many of you who was. Nah, no. But yeah, shout out to the brother Eppy. Thank you so much for watching this full episode of Mind the Mic. It takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to create these episodes. So to know that you've watched and listened to the entire thing means the world to myself and all our hosts. If you could, before you leave, please hit the subscribe button and share this episode out to as many people as possible. It would help us so much. Thank you again to everybody that's still here, still watching. Thank you for all your comments, all your shares, all the DMs. Appreciate you all. Make sure you follow us on every platform. Have an awesome morning. Have an awesome night, depending on where you are in the world. Mind the mic out.
Oi, have you hit the link in bio yet?
Watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all streaming platforms.
Do it.